Today, we're talking about the mini projects, the small ones, the tiny ones, the little ones that don't deserve an entire video just for themselves, but they're still quite cool, and so we're going to combine a couple of them into one video. And so today, there's two of them, two little mini projects, and quite by chance, they both happen to involve interfacing with existing PCBs, existing hardware that wasn't made by me. If you want to be dramatic, you could even say it was a bit of hardware hacking, but that's a little bit much, so we're just going to say it's more or less interfacing with some existing hardware. But right, so yeah, project one is this, a box with a plug and a wire. It's a box plug wire thing, and that's project one. And then there's project number two, which is this, cheap calipers that I added Bluetooth to because everything needs Bluetooth. And then we're back to project number three, which is very similar in appearance to project number one, but I assure you it's exactly the same. It is a EL wire nightlight. The EL wire is not actually connected to it because then it wouldn't just be a box with a plug and a wire, and I couldn't have done the whole thing, could I? So let's start off with project three, which is basically just project number one, except better. And first I'm gonna talk about this, EL wire. This is it in its natural form. It glows in the dark. It uses electricity actually to glow in the dark. So you have this little battery, little case thing with a couple batteries in it that houses all the circuitry and a little button to turn on the glow in the dark EL wire. EL actually means electroluminescent. And most of the time you see these in like costumes and other sort of fun, fashion type things. But since it glows in the dark, you're probably thinking, hang on, something that emits light when you apply a voltage, isn't that just an LED? Isn't that? But it isn't, because it's worse. And it doesn't really light up anything, it just sort of glows a little bit. And so that makes it kind of like, it's not really worth it to have it on when there's lights on, when there's like, the sun out or whatever. And so it was like, well, hey, let's add a little bit of Arduino, a tiny little Arduino, and a photoresistor, and then set it, configure it, make it so that the EL wire will only come on when it is dark out. And so that's what I did. I got this tiny little Arduino that doesn't even have a serial monitor, serial port or whatever, and it's wired up to a photoresistor. And then I also wired up the Arduino to the button of the circuit board. And so when the Arduino senses that the the photoresistor is the lights are off and it's dark, it will press the button and turn on the EL wire. And so in that way you get this EL wire nightlight. And so you can use it in just kind of a fun way and make some patterns on the wall, like I've done here. Or what I think would be really cool is to make it so that the wall looks completely normal in the daytime in the light, and then as soon as you turn off the lights, the EL wire lights up and you see this wall and the room overall in a completely new and different light, pun intended. And it's so yeah, you can definitely go that route and just make it fun and creative. But you can also, it has an application that actually has some use to it. You can use it to outline objects that you might otherwise run into in the dark. And it's kind of a lower light level than saying having like a proper night light to light up an area. And so that's what I've done here. I've got my kitchen island. Kitchen island is something I might run into in the dark, and so I have traced it out in EL wire. And so when I shut off the lights, the entire island, is now lit up and outlined, and so I hopefully won't run into that in the dark when I'm going to get a glass of water. And that's this project. Now on to project number two, which again is Bluetooth calipers. And I took these cheap calipers, and there's actually like some pins broken out, or not so much some like pads broken out on the circuit board of the calipers, just to interface to it, like to an external thing. And so I got an ESP32, a tiny one, a QT Pi ESP32, as well as a LiPo to charge it and power it, to power it. And then I was able to connect the ESP32 to those broken out pads on the PCB of the calipers. And so I'm able, with a bit of code and help from the internet, basically just stealing someone else's code, I was able to read off the measurements from the calipers to the ESP32. And the ESP32, of course, has built into it Bluetooth. So then I was able to, of course, connect it to my laptop. And that means that I can take measurements of whatever, and then open up the the CAD program I'm using and select a dimension that I want to change. And with the simple push of this top button here, it will send the measurement that I took to the put it into the selected field on the CAD program. And so I spent hours of work to save about 2 seconds of time from putting it in manually. But it's quite cool. And as you can see, you can barely notice the difference in dimensions from a normal pair of calipers at all. But I quite like it. And yeah, it was a fun little project. It was kind of the day I put together this whole back case. I had coffee, definitely different from today. I have not had any coffee today, and but the coffee that day kind of hit wrong, and it was filling me with a boatload of anxiety. And so as I'm like catting out this case, I'm like it was kind of a rough day making this whole case. And then what, I was going off of measurements, but I was also kind of just like throwing out dimensions like, oh, it looks about right, I'll just make it that dimension. And I send it off to the printers, and when I come back, this first version, the rough draft, if you will, I could have used that as the final. It was like basically spot on. I was pretty happy with it. It was a great end to this kind of a less than ideal day. That's this project. And so there you have it. There's the two little mini projects, the hardware interfacing hacking mini projects. And yeah, I quite like them both. The one issue is that the EL wire nightlight has the EL wire is, I think, running at a higher voltage, an AC voltage, and so the circuitry required to turn a DC tiny little 3.3 volt voltage into a higher AC voltage is emitting a bit of a whine, which makes it kind of annoying to have as like it detracts from its appeal as a long-term just like set in plug. There you have a nightlight type application, but I think I'm just going to wrap it super sketchily with some duct tape and foam soundproof panels, and hopefully that will deal with that. It's also a little bit warm from the boost converter that I'm using to power it all, but I think it's within acceptable limits. So overall pretty happy with it. And of course, I love my little Bluetooth calipers. And so that's it. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.